Hello, and welcome to State of Our Workforce Unpacked, where we'll dig deeper into the incredibly impactful work our network partners are doing across the country. My name is Henry Danner, and I'm the network manager at the National Fund. In a powerful new piece published in the Commonwealth Beacon, Andre Green, executive director of SkillWorks, our network partner in Boston, argued that funding for English language learning is only a starting point for making workforce systems more equitable for immigrant workers. To truly support immigrant workers, we need systems that see language access as more than education, but as essential workforce infrastructure. I'm excited to be joined by Andre to help us unpack what he believes it will take to build equitable systems that work for immigrant workers and lessons we could take away from SkillWorks' approach. Hey, Andre, how's it going?
It's going good. Good to see you, Henry.
Good to see you as well. I had a chance to read the piece that you published in Commonwealth Beacon, and it was really enlightening. And it was actually very nice to read some good news.
That was part of
For
the appeal of writing it. Yeah,
yeah, and you guys had a lot of success, and I am really looking forward to this conversation and unpacking it with you further. So shall we begin?
please.
All right. So, in the piece in Commonwealth Beacon, you make a strong case that funding for English language learning is just the start. Can you tell us a little bit about what motivated you to write this and what gap were you hoping to highlight by publishing that?
Sure. So it was written in the aftermath of a 2-year work in progress to get the state to invest another $10 million in what we call vocational ESOL. Um, and the gap that was always meant to address, and it's still meant to address as we continue going forward, is that here in Massachusetts, we're faced with a number of realities. The most pressing of which, for the purposes of this, is that we simultaneously have a labor shortage. We have a shrinking workforce. Between 2020 and 2022, our workforce shrunk by 2%. Um, and we have uh, a large number of underemployed workers who are not using their full skills in the workforce. Um, about 140,000 of whom, according to Eastern Bank, are foreign born residents. So we have businesses who desperately need employees and people who are not using their skills.
Mhm.
Um, and at SkillWorks, in the Boston Foundation, we have at this point, pretty proven approach to how we uh, address problems. And it's both top down and bottom up. The Boston Foundation in 2019 wrote a report talking about how much the state benefits from investing in ESOL. And they released that report in March of 2020. So it didn't get the play it should have gotten because
Yeah.
we got overtaken by events. And simultaneously, we had community groups coming to us saying, "Hey, we're working with all these immigrants who need jobs to thrive and can't find them." And so we convened people, we talked it through, and it kept coming back to English, and not just English in the way we teach. How you teach how to ask, "Where's the library?"
Right.
Important skills, but not going to help you get a job.
Hmm.
But we had worked with partners in the past on really fleshing out the kind of English you need to get and keep and hold a job and advance a career. And so it was how we advanced that particular model of work. And then once we did that and got our first win, how do we keep the momentum going to do the real deep work?
Awesome, awesome. So that labor shortage being like a jumping off point to attract more eyes and ears and some money to help fix this problem or address it or improve it was super important. But another thing that was really important was how you framed it, right? So you framed English language learning as more of a workforce infrastructure strategy, or like you just mentioned, like a skill that helps people to advance in the workforce. So I'm interested in how did you manage to shift that conversation from it just being related to education, as we know English language learning to be associated with, to making it more of a central skill for workforce representatives.
Sure. I think in some ways, collaboratives like ours are perfectly positioned to do this work because it's what we do all the time, right? We bring we bring people together across sectors and across stakeholder groups in a way that allows us to have different conversations, right?
Mhm.
It's not like we are. It's not like we're the first people in Boston to be like, "Hey, what if we spent more money in ESOL?" Right? Like we even had the good fortune to work with. I think I last count almost 50 organizations that have been doing this work in various ways, be it businesses, providers, immigrant support groups, job trainers, longer than we have. But
Mhm.
what we're able to do is really bring those groups together and talk about it in a new way, as you pointed out. And it's not just that we think English is a good idea because people speak English to be able to have better lives. Although we do believe that, and one of the reasons we're so excited about doing this work is in this moment where immigrants are under attack on so many fronts, we were not just defending, but we were advancing the reality that they are positive assets in our community.
Mhm.
And it's just that, like, this is not charity, right? Like, no one is doing this because it's just because it feels good. We're doing it because it's real economic benefit. Massachusetts currently has 25,000 people on the wait list at a given moment in time for ESOL. So the demand is there. These immigrants want to learn English. A survey done by our colleagues at JVS Boston said that 70% of them want to learn English so they can get a better job. And only 4% of current ESOL spending was being used towards that end.
Mm.
So there's desire, there's demand, and as in studies by my colleagues at Legal Equity Fund here at the Boston Foundation, by Mass Inc., by Eastern Bank, by Mass Business Roundtable, as many studies have shown, the economic benefits of this are real. Like, um, we did the math that if we are able to reduce wait lists by 10,000 people, so it will train 10,000 more people in Massachusetts in ESOL, over 15 years, they will see an increase of $1.3 billion in new
Mhm.
wages. And that means, new wages means more tax revenue, but it also means lower spending on health, on public benefit supports. It means better outcomes for students in classes. Like, everyone benefits if we get this right.
Yeah, man. $1.3 billion is a hard number to ignore, isn't it?
I, for investment, if we say $45 million, like if I told you you can make an investment right now in 15 years, you were guaranteed to make 47 times your initial investment,
Mhm.
you'd be where can I sign up?
Right, right. Oh man, one of the things that I really loved in your response was your focus on like collaboration and coalition and acknowledging that there are so many groups in your area that have been doing this work for a long time, pushing this forward, and everyone is just coming together to keep it moving, to keep the train going. At the National Fund, that's sort of one of our key pieces. Like our network is what makes us who we are. So that spirit of collaboration, of amplifying the work of our network partners is super important to the work that we do. And we see it reflected in, many of our network partners, such as yourself. We were happy to have Boston as one of the communities that worked in our advancing workforce equity project
Yeah,
and also our systems think and learning lab recently,
yeah.
and you were a part of both of those projects, and I was wondering if there was some lessons or some things that you learned during those experiences that helped you to conceptualize what an equitable system for English language learners looks like in your community, and also what will it take to sustain, the progress that you all are making.
Right. So as you know, SkillWorks is very proud of our status as one of the original members of the National Fund.
Yes.
Um, and we talk about the Workforce Equity Project. I was wrapping up when I got in the seat. So in a lot of ways, that report and the findings therein have shaped my approach to the job for as long as I've been in it.
Hmm.
It's the report we cite even to this day when we explain that our approach is, as we sometimes say, that we're a racial equity group that uses workforce development as our tool. Um, and you see the through line from that report to this work, right? This isn't charity work. We firmly believe that there are a few things we can do that will improve the economy of Massachusetts more than tackling racial inequities in our workforce.
Hmm.
So that's like sort of like been the through line of our work these last 5 years. And the systems change with work, and several other things we've done with the National Fund has been so key in how we frame things, how we talk about things. Like I said, I think collaboratives are the place where this work is done best, right? This work that is really about like what we've, I think what we have been successfully able to do
Hmm.
is rally a community of people who have already invested in this work towards shared purpose. Um, and I think collaborators are very good at that because what we do every day. That is our mission statement. That's what we do. And so just expanding the circle where we should do it at is some ways very natural.
Got it. Got it. And that report you're mentioning is the Advancing Workforce Equity report, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
done in
That's available on
2021.
your website and on the National Fund's website if anyone wants to check it out. And then the second part of that question was the sustainability. Just, what is it going to take to sustain the progress you've made and continue moving things forward? I know in the piece you mentioned, quite a few moving parts,
Right.
like policy work and things of that nature. So just, and you could also maybe share where you're at with some of that now.
Sure. So I think, very proud. We'll trigger the report is in last year's supplemental budget. There's a pot of money in Massachusetts uh, called the Fair Share Act funds, popularly called in casual circles millionaires tax. But it created a new pot of revenue, estimated when it was first passed at $1 billion a year to spend on education and transportation. It has actually been an average of 2 to 3 billion a year, and every year since it's been done, um, because so far, knocking on wood, the promised exodus of millionaires has not happened. If anything, we've seen a growth in high income individuals in Massachusetts. But
Hmm.
that meant there was money to spend on education and transportation. And we've seen increases in like universal school lunch and school breakfast, uh, improvements in mass transit, et cetera. And we were able to argue correctly that like we should not money should go to ESL supports.
Hmm.
So we were able to get that's where the original money came from. Very proud of that money. Very happy to see what becomes of it. And we know that Massachusetts has always invested perhaps more than other states in ESOL. But as I mentioned before, where 70% of respondents say they want ESOL to get or improve their job, only like 4% of the money is that's what it's spent on.
Hmm.
So like saying, hey, we want to spend money specifically on helping immigrants get the English they need to unlock their full talent was core. And while Massachusetts has invested and continues to invest in it, it should be very proud of itself. The investments have been somewhat disjointed.
Hmm.
There's currently ESOL money in most of it's in the Department of Education, but some of it's in the Executive Office of Labor and Workforce Development. Some of it's in the Office of Refugees and Immigrants, which is in Health and Human Services. So there's pockets of money doing different things in the ESOL all over state government, and what they're not doing is necessarily coordinate with each other. And so we have I would argue that we have a bunch of ESOL tactics, and we haven't ever built that into an ESL strategy. So
Hmm.
that's also what we're calling for now. And I think the work ahead is absolutely what we want to maintain and grow our investment, but we're not going to get the full bang for that investment until we do a better job of coordinating those investments, both for employers, right? Like employers should know how to go find that talent they need that speaks English.
Hmm.
For certainly for residents, like I mentioned earlier, there's a 25,000 person wait list in Massachusetts,
Hmm.
and that is both true and not necessarily most accurate because there's not actually a wait list. The way it currently works is someone comes and they go sign up for a program. It may not be the right program for them, but it's a program
Hmm.
that they've heard of that's near them. And then it's got a wait list, so they go sign up somewhere else. And so like there's this weird cacophony where like there's no easy pathway into the system to find the services that work for you, for your needs you have. So really building that system to make all our programs in ESL more effective really is that next step.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds like hard work. I mean, but it is the work of when you're working at a systems level, like in workforce development. I think everybody's tasked with that same challenge of just like coordination, getting the right hand to speak to the left hand, right? And it's ongoing, but it's ebbs and flows. And your team is certainly on the right track from what we see. We're privileged to have you as a partner in the network. And I want to close us out with one just last question around, you know, what would you like to share with other leaders in the workforce industry around like the tactics that you all use that you would say um, is something that you would recommend that they do if they were trying to do the same work or trying to make the same type of strides that you've made? You know, how can they learn from what you all have done so far and to implement it in their own communities?
Sure. I think I'd give two pieces of advice. First is you don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? Like as I mentioned, this is the work we do collaborators do every day. We've just applied it to a new space and maybe expanded the focus of our coalition, right? But like it is building on research and networks and stuff that we've been doing for years and rallying around a specific problem. This is what collaboratives do. So the problem might be ESL, but there's some problem in your community that you can identify that you're positioned to do, and you should do it. I think three things, because two, I always want to say this is
Mm,
advocacy is not a dirty word, right? Like we are in philanthropy, and it's important because we've all said this year, so I want to say it again. We can't replace public funding. There's just not enough money for that. But what we can do, and we should do, and we're doing this work, we are showing what is possible if public dollars are spent differently, right? So we are creating the pathways, we're creating the pilots, we're doing that work, and then ultimately our job is to say, hey, government, we prove this work. We've proved that vocational ESL improves wage outcomes. We proved that expanding ESL pays for it. We've done all that work. Now it's on you to fund it to fund it at scale and in the long term. And if we're not saying that, we're doing band-aids, we're not doing systems change.
right.
Um, and the third thing is that like, you know, your community has untapped assets
Hmm.
and talent and work ethic. It may be immigrant populations, it may be just involved youth, but like especially in workforce development, we have to always be making a case the workers we are working with are assets, not problems we solve. And I think when
Hmm.
we like what originally brought me to this work, honestly, was in my community. I was doing some volunteer work with an immigrant rights group here in Somerville, and I was at a retreat with them, and they had done this. They had these word clouds, and they'd asked their ESL participants, and this is 2013, so this is years before I ended up in this seat. But they asked their immigrant participants or ESL participants, so what are you doing? What did you do in your home country? And they'd be like teacher, architect, HR professional,
Hmm.
all these great jobs. What are you doing? What are you doing here? Housekeeper, landscaper, painter, house painter. And like those are all noble positions. Like my grandmother was a career housekeeper. I'm not gonna just dinner hit them. But what becomes clear is how much talent this country was missing out on, right? And I think we in workforce development, because of the way it's structured, oftentimes forget to make that narrative. We're
Hmm.
not we're not fixing broken people. We are unlocking the potential and talent of truly remarkable people who, given the opportunity and given the position, will do amazing things. And when you put it that like that, it's really hard to say no, right?
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's great, great stuff. That's and man, I don't even know how to follow up on that except to say that I am just truly grateful for your insights and for you imparting that advice on our listeners and on the people that are going to be watching this as well. So thank you so much for joining us, Andre. It's been a really good conversation. I've learned a
Pleasure.
lot. And I also just want to thank everybody who joined us today on LinkedIn. Make sure you're following the National Fund on LinkedIn to stay up to date with all the latest from State of Our Workforce, and tune in for future episodes where we'll continue to explore the future of workforce equity with our network partners on State of Our Workforce Unpacked. So until then, everybody take care.